I don't care if it's business, personal, if you're raising children, whatever it is, most people look outward versus inward. Because I think the more we look inward versus outward, the more we can correct the behaviors.
Then that encourages an environment where people are constantly trying to get better. Is they look at the most recent thing that happened as if that was the cause.
If one of our lanes within our structure is not functioning and doing it to the highest degree, okay, that falls right back on this guy.
Matt Weaver, the #1 mortgage originator in the United States for most loans closed in 2023 and #1 in the state of Florida from 2020 to present, has spent over 27 years mastering the purchase market, earning more than 16 #1 titles across his career. Max Fisch, 2024's #1 originator in the United States under 30 and #2 in the state of Florida, achieved those titles within just 5 years of entering the mortgage industry, compressing decades of growth into a few extraordinary years. Collectively, they've helped more than 40,000 families purchase their first home. Now partners and looking to improve the industry on a national scale, Matt and Max share their winning formula, team structure, and systems with originators who want to scale from elite to extraordinary levels.
So Matt, we're back.
We are here.
So a few episodes ago, we talked about the different types of winning and how we refer to them within our team structure. And we talked specifically about raw winning. And I think it would constitute as raw winning you being here today directly from the airport after a few days of travel.
No, that's what it takes. So pardon my attire, but yes, I just got off of some business travel, so we're here today, and that's what makes it great.
Well, thank you for being here because that one episode I did by myself was a little awkward. So thank you.
Just talking into a camera.
Yes, so thank you for being here. But today I'm super excited about what we're going to discuss because it's a concept that you and I have talked at length about, which is inward versus outward.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to talk through because it really goes with the idea of extreme ownership, looking inside, what can you do better, and so on and so forth. So I'm interested to hear, some of these talking points that we've discussed at length.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I would probably say most human beings, if something goes wrong, if there's a challenge in the process, I don't care if it's business, personal, if you're raising children, whatever it is, most people look outward versus inward. And listen, I'm not casting any judgment on it. It's just a good topic to discuss because some of us, I think, have it more intuitively of looking inward versus outward. And for those that necessarily don't have it intuitively, it's something to consider doing because I think the more we look inward versus outward, the more we can correct the behaviors, the more that we can correct things and work in scale form. I'm always thinking about how to scale something, whether it be in my own personal life at home, okay, because we're always looking to find more time. So if you can develop process at home, you open up more windows of time. But the way to do that is to always, when you have a scenario or an issue or a challenge, is look inward versus outward, because if we look inward, we can say, what could I have done better? We've done a lot together so far in our short little period of time. And you'll always notice that if something goes wrong, or if we were supposed to be somewhere at a certain time and got caught up somewhere, the first question I'll always ask myself is, what could I have done better? Versus the circumstance. Well, there was a thunderstorm. So the plane had to get diverted, or whatever it may be. There's a traffic jam. See, we can blame the external circumstance, or we can just ask ourselves, what could we have done better to get ahead of that? And I know in a lot of ways that sounds or seems a little unreasonable, but if we have that mindset, we'll be right by way of correcting things faster than we will be wrong. Okay. I think always looking at ourselves and trying to improve the circumstance within ourselves is always going to be the right answer. So when we look at our mortgage process, when we look at what we're trying to develop or come up with in terms of value propositions for agents, it's always about what could I do better. So here's an example. let's say we go out and do a presentation. Well, I'm doing one tomorrow. Okay, there'll be 120 agents in the room. We're rolling out a new product, which is a new product launch, which is really, really exciting. It's going to help them sell more real estate. There's just no question about it. So here's the deal. If they're not understanding the product in totality, I could walk away and easily say, gosh, a lot of them just don't get it. It's one way of doing it. That's external. Or I can say to myself, well, hold on. What could I have done better in the presentation to communicate it more effectively? So inward versus outward, I think in all things is critically important. And you do it yourself as well, because I've noticed it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's twofold for me. So number one, having that mentality is best for a team's culture. Because when everybody can take ownership and when everybody can look inward, when an issue arises or an obstacle they're facing or a challenge or so on and so forth, then that encourages an environment where people are constantly trying to get better.
Yes.
And so culture-wise, it's very important. So that's number one. But number two is it helps us, and we talk about the concept of linear thinking. I think I mentioned to you one time that you are masterful at being able to take yourself all the way back to the origin and then take step by step there. You see, where I think many people go wrong in their mentality when a challenge or an obstacle arises is they look at the most recent thing that happened as if that was the cause.
Yes.
So, for example, a challenge arises and somebody did something that wasn't right to cause that challenge. Oh, it's their fault.
Yeah.
Because that's the most recent thing that happened. But I think when we look inward, it causes us to go back to the origin, the first initial cause, and say, if I could have done X, Y, and Z better along the way, maybe that external incident wouldn't have happened.
Yes.
And so it's always been twofold to me. And that's one thing that I've noticed about you specifically is the ability to think linear, not think here and then jump to this incident and then go back here. And that is the quintessential portrayal of thinking inward.
Yes.
Okay, what could I have done better? Let's go back to the beginning.
Yes. I mean, linear thinking is so critically important, especially when we're developing a process. Okay. It's really simple to identify where it went wrong at, let's say, step number 9. But how did we get to step number 9? We have to revisit
Exactly.
the circumstance from the beginning and work through. And then always asking ourselves, what could we have done better? It's both in business and in personal life. I was speaking to a relative of mine the other day, and they shared with me, I haven't heard from so-and-so, another relative of ours. And the first question I asked them is, well, when was the last time you called them?
Yeah.
You see, and I'm just using that as a micro
Yeah.
example of, I think it's an important exercise to always ask ourselves, what are we doing? What can we do better in the circumstance? So if you haven't heard from that relative, ask yourself the question, when was the last time you called them?
Yeah.
And most people are always pointing outward. So inward versus outward is something that's critically important, I think, in self-improvement, I think in team building, as you mentioned, and I think in growing something extraordinary.
Yeah, and especially in our business and in the mortgage industry. It's so important because as we talk to originators and we want to build out these teams and these processes like we have here on our team, the things that we discuss in F13 Consulting, it's so important to first instill this in the team members because unless you're working by yourself, okay, it rubs off on everybody around you throughout your operation. And as I mentioned, it creates a culture of the blame game.
Right.
And so that is applicable for teams and for culture. But here's what I want people to consider. Even if it is just you within your operation, even if it is just you, we should consider always thinking this way so that we can get better throughout the things that we're doing along the way. For example, as an originator, the underwriter just didn't like it.
Right.
Or I could have done a better job at setting up the file or reviewing the documents instead of just blaming it on the underwriter.
Correct.
Okay. A team member, they didn't do what they were supposed to do in that circumstance. Well, was it effectively communicated to them by you
Oh,
of what they were supposed to do?
no doubt
So
about it.
these are just questions that we have to continue to ask ourselves.
Well, we were in a group of highly productive agents the other day,
Mhm.
and the word delegation came up, which most agents, most originators are guilty of. And I said to the group, in my opinion, when we're poor at delegating, okay, because whomever we're delegating it to isn't doing the right task, it's a leadership problem.
Mm.
So, and a lot of them are looking at me like, whoa, does he mean me? And the answer is yes, I mean
Yeah.
you. Okay, because that's the way I look at it. I mean, there's a lot of circumstance here. Okay, you we decided to place me as CEO of our group.
Yes.
Okay, we all have our lanes in leadership. You, me, Avi, etc. And so we talked about number one, if I'm going to be the CEO of the group, it's a 1-year term because we have to measure my performance over the year. See, I want that accountability, but here's the deal. If one of our lanes within our structure is not functioning and doing it to the highest degree, okay, that falls right back on this guy. So I actually embrace taking blame.
Mm.
I embrace taking blame because if I embrace it, then I'm going to do everything in my power to fix it. Okay, so for the people that are competitive out there, think of blame as competition. So the idea is to beat the competition, which is blame, which is the only way you beat it is if you get better.
Mhm. So absolutely, and I think that's what has helped propel you to where you've gotten in this industry. So that is a very foreign quality to many people. And so what I would ask originators or whoever is listening to this to consider the next time you face a challenge or an obstacle, I want you to intentionally catch yourself. If the first thought that comes in your mind is it's somebody else's fault, stop, take a moment, think, and consider what you could have done better. And I think that it will be the inception of a lot of growth here in this great industry, professionally and personally.
No doubt about it. That's a great exercise. And it was a great conversation that we had, Max. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.